The World Rapid Play Championship has just started in Almaty, Kazakhstan. And what a tremendous event it is. For a start, it's over-the-board chess. Who knew that still existed? It's great to see. Not everything is going online. So we've got all the top players in the world there. Magnus Carlsen, for one, is there. I mean, leading player in the world. He's certainly continues to make his mark in the chess world. But, you know, all his rivals are there. Hikaru Nakamura is there. We've got young Indian players like Eragaisi, Sarin. And indeed, we have the current World Rapid Play champion, Nodirbek Abdusattorov from Uzbekistan. He's only 18 years old. Remember, he won this tournament last year. It's incredible. And in between, he, of course, was part of the Uzbek team that picked up the gold medals at the Olympiad in Chennai. So he's such an exciting player. And Carlsen and Abdusattorov met in round 4. Both players, I think, were on 3 out of 3 at this point. And we see Carlsen playing b3. And this game is remarkable for all kinds of reasons. As we're about to see, there's an echo of a famous game from a very famous player. Here, black can, of course, just push this pawn. That's not a bad move. e4, knight d4. But bishop d6 is quite a trendy way of playing. Well, I say trendy. It's just a kind of normal move, protecting this pawn. And then later on, you can try and push this. c4. Yeah, I think c4 is actually a better move than playing bishop b5 in this position. So with c4, it goes into a kind of closed Sicilian, actually. And Carlsen is following, well, we'll see who he's following in a second. I'm sure many of you know already. Bishop f8, castles. Now, here Abdusattorov decides to go for basically a reversed open Sicilian with d5. You don't have to play like that. You could just play with d6 and play g6 and bishop g7. This is a very solid way for black to play. But d5 goes for an open Sicilian type position. But I think Carlsen would have been very comfortable with this because he's got this lovely hedgehog setup. So all these squares on the 4th rank are controlled by the pawns. And this piece development is classic setup from the Sicilian as well. Remember, you just got to think with colours reversed and very flexible for white. It's hard for black to really probe against this formation. f6, queen c2, just starting to build here, connecting the rooks, all very flexible. Now, here is where Abdusattorov played bishop f5, varying from a famous game between Bobby Fischer and Ulf Andersson that continued bishop e6. And here Fischer played king h1. And then rook g1. And yes, he managed to get in g4. Now, this was a fantastic game by Bobby Fischer, played in Siegen in 1970 in Germany. It was actually an exhibition game. And Fischer won splendidly. I've previously done a video on that exact game, so I'll put the link down there if you want to see the details of that. So do check that out. But here, instead of bishop e6, Abdusattorov played bishop f5. Well, that's kind of logical because it looks at the d3 pawn. And of course, if e4, then that does not win a piece because of knight f4. So rook fe1 from Carlsen. Now this is a threat to play e4 because the bishop is defended by the rook. So the bishop drops back. Aha, well, Carlsen knows his classics. You don't have to play like this with white, but this is a very tempting move to make. Why not? So the idea of g4 is to take control over the f5 square, and if white controls the f5 square, then this knight can move into e4 and can't be pushed away. And in controlling these squares, then white can start to build a very nice attack on the king side, possibly even pushing through with the g-pawn. And here is where Abdusattorov plays queen d7. You could say it's a kind of routine move. I mean, it looks reasonable to connect the rooks. He could have played a4 here. Now, this is a very interesting moment. If pawn takes, then knight takes, and this is really what black wants, to disturb white's pieces. The move you want to make is b4, and then you have to ask, well, what's this pawn move doing? This has actually benefited white. But actually here, it's possible for black to sacrifice a piece, and this is quite tricky. If the queen drops back, then you can take on d3. Well, that's 3 pawns for the piece. I mean, this is very well known kind of sacrifice in the Sicilian. Black has, well, I was going to say more than enough compensation. It's actually level material. Black is doing well in that position. And here, check. Well, that's probably better because at least you can hold this pawn. But I mean, black has pretty good compensation here. 2 pawns for the piece, and these two are steaming down the board. I think in rapid play, these kind of big moments in the game where you have to make a decision which is really precipitous are very difficult. You don't know how much time to invest. You know, you might invest a lot of time and then realize at the end of your think that you're sort of just running up a blind alley and it wasn't worth investing the time. And it's easier just to make a natural move like queen d7. But that was certainly a missed opportunity for Abdusattorov. King h1. So that's a nice move. You don't actually need to protect this pawn because after queen takes, knight takes, discovered attack, you're going to win pawn back. And, well, white has the 2 bishops. I mean, this kind of position, when you've got a beautiful pawn centre, all these pawns in the centre, backed up by the 2 bishops. I mean, strategically, I would say practically winning for white, but there's a long way to go. But that's my Sicilian prejudice coming in. I like these kind of positions. Still possible to play a4 after king h1, but rook a d8. Knight e4. There we go. That's why we want to play g4. That enables the knight to come into e4 without allowing f5. Once again, queen takes g4 will be met by knight takes e5. King h8. Okay, it's good to take the king off this diagonal. However, watch out. The king is now on this diagonal. Rook d1. You have to be a little bit careful here with white. That's to protect this pawn. In fact, black was wanting to play knight b4. Let me just have a quick look at that. If rook g1 straight away, then knight b4. Giving up a piece, and again one of these positions where you get 3 pawns, well, sorry, in this case only 2 pawns, but this is quite dangerous. There's a lot of pieces attacked here. So Carlsen protected that pawn with rook d1. Bishop f7, and now the rook comes over to g1. This is exactly Fischer's strategy. Carlsen wants to double on the G file and then try to force things open. A4 from Abdusattorov. What's interesting is that although black's play looks quite conservative, looks like he might have missed a big moment. Actually, after A4, this is still actually fine for black, and Abdusattorov has succeeded in creating a bit of counterplay. Incidentally, I would like to play b4 here, of course, keeping the position closed, keeping a nice pawn formation. Bishop b3 is unfortunate. So that's why Carlsen had to take here. And now black is actually doing pretty well. But, well, there's no time to sort of mope about how things are going on the queen side, Carlsen switched over to the king side. And here Abdusattorov should play knight takes a4. I think he was obviously concerned about g5. And this does look really scary, threatening to open up the g file. There's pressure on e5. In fact, f5 is still okay for black. This looks incredibly scary. You know, black has to consider the consequences of this piece sacrifice. I mean, my computer tells me that black is okay here, but, you know, in a rapid play game, you can't be sure. White can also take here. And this is also reasonable for white. I mean, this might be white's best, but black should be okay here, basically. You know, black. You know, these rooks aren't breaking into the position. They don't have an open file, so black with two minor pieces against a rook should be better there. But Abdusattorov plays a move which I think is very understandable. He can see that g5 is coming. So he thinks, great, I'll put the bishop on this diagonal, and that is going to restrict white's movements because of this pin. But g5 came anyway. Now this is serious, because after pawn takes, then white is just crashing through here. And watch out for that bishop with its latent power down the diagonal. So f5 played, and here, I mean, it's possible actually to go knight f6 here, but Carlsen went for knight c3. And Abdusattorov stuck to his guns, keeping the bishop on this diagonal. And Carlsen thought, okay, can't be dealing with that. Let's shut the diagonal. And, well, there's still going to be pressure here. There's still potential to do things on, on the king side as well. It's a very interesting position. So, for example, if g6, then, well, let's push the h-pawn and get this one going. But knight takes a4 played. Knight takes, bishop takes, queen c3. Aha. Well, Carlsen is really teeing up for a big one here. You know, three pieces looking at e5, and through that e5 pawn, white is looking at black's king. Knight c6, the knight comes back to protect. g6, here we go. Things are brewing nicely. And knight d4 played, which at first glance doesn't look bad, because if this is taken, then pawn takes, the diagonal is shut, and black is looking to take on e4. But here is where Carlsen produced an extraordinary move, and no doubt anticipated before he played g6. This is fantastic. Well, he ignored this, he ignored the knight on d4 and simply played knight g5. This is brilliant. Okay, well, let's have a quick look at h6, trying to keep things closed. Well, this one just doesn't work because white actually wins material. Watch out for a discovered check there, and once that's closed, then the rook drops on d8. That is winning for white. Okay, let's come back. So in the game after knight g5, knight takes e2 with a family fork. Okay, over to you. What is the best move here? Carlsen played a good move, but he didn't play the best move. Quick slurp tea, cheers. And you try and find the best move for white. Let me take the arrows off the board. White play. How does white play and win in this position? Here we go. Queen c4 is the best move. Not played by Carlsen. threatening a massive check on f7. Let's just see that check. Yeah, if the king comes here, then okay, we can all do that one. And let me see, let's go back. So queen c4, rook e7. Now here's the winning move. And maybe Carlsen overlooked this, who knows. Taking here threatens queen g8 check. And with the rook blocking the bishop, actually that's rather unpleasant. Black just doesn't really get out of that one unless you want to give away a rook, but it's winning for white. Okay, let's go back. So, in fact, the best move here is queen c4. Carlsen checked. Now, if king g8, then queen c4, again, this is winning. Because after this, you give a check and you play knight g5. That's good. It's possible to play king takes here. And allow white to queen in the corner. Should be winning for white. You know, it's funny, white's king might sometimes get in a little trouble here, but okay, it must be winning for white. You know, there's still an attack at the other end of the board, actually. But after knight f7, queen takes knight, getting dramatic. Pawn takes. Okay, black gets the queen back. Let's get a queen at the other end. Bishop takes c3. And after that flurry, Carlsen finds himself the exchange up. So he has, let me see, a rook against bishop and pawn. Well, it's definitely better for white because black has a problem here. I wonder if it might be best to exchange here. But bishop g6 played, and at this point, basically Abdusattorov plays inaccurately and collapses very quickly. After this, bishop breaks through. This looks pretty bad. Bishop takes d3, and final move, rook takes g7. That was the end of the game. So really interesting how Carlsen contrived to use those rooks on the g file. Abdusattorov resigned here. Let's see, if bishop takes, then this is the point. Check here, and you pick up the rook on d8. And in that position, bishop e4 check doesn't work, of course, because the rook comes back, blocks this check, and sets up a check there, and then, well, here, and you pick up that one. So, in any case, rook takes g7, definitely the right moment for black to resign. Well, it's fascinating to see Carlsen play in the footsteps of Bobby Fischer. Just a reminder, if you want to see that full game, Fischer against Andersson, which instead of bishop f5, bishop e6 was played here. And you can see the similarity in the strategies, then do check out that video which I recorded, I can't remember when, a long time ago. Fischer definitely wasn't the first to play with this kind of strategy. I mean, there might be others, but there's a game that I know of. Rocker against Georgiou Hastings 1964. And this position, Georgiou with black. And here he played g5. You notice with colours reversed. So this came from a Najdorf. g5, same strategy, controlling the f4 square. Rook g8, yeah, we've seen it before. It's all about the structure. Notice that the similar pawn structure here. Okay, the pawn was on the third rank or the sixth rank, depending on how you look at it. But, you know, these are the important things here. It's very, very similar. Just a quick look at this. Knight here, you can see this knight hopped into e5. It's all very familiar. And then Here we go. The break with g4 and knight g4. Georgiou won a really, really nice game with black. Maybe we'll look at that another time. Anyway, let's go back to the World Rapid Play Championships 2022. After 5 rounds, 4 players in the lead. Carlsen, Van Foreest, Fedoseev, Erigaisi, all on 4.5. But it's a 13-round tournament, so anything could happen between now and then. Tune in for more videos on the Rapid World Championship coming to you soon. I will try and get more vids to you. Hope you're enjoying the holidays. Bye now.